All right, welcome everybody to Getting Started with MindManager for Project Basics. My name is Ryan Ward. I'll be acting as moderator. I have with me today our VP of Marketing for MindManager, Felicity Woltman, and she'll be taking us through kind of the basics of using MindManager for project management, which is one of the great uses we like to display for our product. I encourage you throughout the session to submit any questions you have with the GoToWebinar panel on the right side there. You'll find the question functionality, and you can submit, and we'll do our best to answer live during the session, but also take down some of the ones that we think are for a better, broader audience and answer them in a live Q&A at the end of the session. We have 30 minutes scheduled, so we'll jump right into it. Hopefully we'll leave about 5 minutes at the end for Q&A. All right, without further ado, Felicity, take it away.
Thanks a lot, Ryan, and thanks to everybody who's participating in this session. Hopefully you can all see my screen. I have MindManager open, and it says welcome in the central topic. So please send a chat message to us if you can't see my screen. Today I'm going to go through a couple of areas of project management where MindManager is especially useful. The first is in requirements definition and validation, and the second is in building out a realistic project plan and getting team buy-in on deliverables and due dates. As in both of these areas, the requirements validation and getting team buy-in on a detailed project plan, you'll notice that one of the strengths of MindManager and the visual layout is the ability to get people literally on the same page and make sure that your project is defined in a way that is realistic and achievable, and so sets up your project for success. What I like to do is I start with one of the pre-built templates, and to do that I go up here to New Map, and I click From Template, and I see that I have a choice of blank templates and templates that are for specific tasks, and in this case project management, and I'm going to choose the project charter. That's the map that's the template that I use to do requirements gathering and validation. And what I would do is just click Create Map here. I've actually pre-populated one, but to use this template you would just click Create Map, and then this entire template will show up in your MindManager screen. So let me go to my project charter, and I'll make it a little bigger. So just as an FYI, I'm sure you all know this, but down here at the bottom of the screen is a slider that lets you show more or less of the map. So here's the project charter, and I'm just going to show a couple of aspects of the project charter. One is project information. So what I've done here is I've entered I would enter what's the project. In this case, it's a new e-commerce system, a description, who's the project manager, who are the key stakeholders that I don't want to forget to include, and I maybe want to put a check mark there after I've interviewed them, for example. And to do that, I would go up here and I would put a check for the fact that I've already interviewed the CEO. And this is for my use really as the project manager, that as I talk to each of the decision makers, I can put a check mark to indicate that I've talked to them. And then I have a team member list, and if I want to, I'm on a Mac today, I'm running Parallels on a Mac, so I don't have Outlook running, but if I did have Outlook running, I could actually bring in contact information for everybody on the team from Outlook. So the Outlook integration, which you get to from the, since I don't use it, I forget. Here it is. It's in the task menu. Up here, Outlook, you can insert Microsoft Outlook items into the map. So you can insert contact information, email addresses, and you can even insert tasks if you want to. So that is useful. Now I'm going to go down to goals and objectives. And what I like to do is break this into two sections. The first is for my notes. And as I interview the various people, I like to project my map as I enter my notes, because then they can see what I'm typing and they can say, no, that's not what I meant, or yes, that is what I meant. And if they make a real point of emphasizing one aspect over another, I can say, okay, the VP of Sales really wants to call out that this is his top priority, is faster response time for promo requests. So I like to use these icons as much as possible for priorities to show progress. As we get into task status, I like to use a red flag or a green flag to show that things are on track. And one of the ways this will be useful later, there are two ways it's useful. One is that everybody can see on the screen when you're interviewing them and feeding back to them what they've told you. They get a visual sense of what the top priorities are. But also later, when your map gets pretty complex, you can index your map on markers. And so if I just want to see priority ones, I can do so. And I'll show you that later, but it's just paving the way to take advantage of the icons, which are not just cosmetic. They also serve a function in terms of helping you find things in the map. Then what I do is when I'm ready to go into the final requirements definition and I want to eliminate duplicates, I will copy and paste my notes, and I can get rid of this notes topic here by saying delete topic only. Okay, so that's just going to delete the notes topic. It's not going to delete the subtopic. Now I'm going to go through and eliminate duplicates. And so what I'm seeing here is, okay, the CFO says enable more payment options, and the VP of Sales says increase payment options. So I'm just going to make this the final one. I'm going to drag and drop and make this a final one, make this a final one. And so I take my notes and I make these final, either interactively with people, with everybody in the room and going through and using priority markers, or just by doing it based on my notes and then sending out a hard copy later. So I'm going to get rid of some of these extra topics. So then I'm just going to end up with my top list of requirements here. So that's how I tend to work. And then if you want to stack rank these, again, since two people said increase payment options, I'm going to make that the top priority. Now to put priorities on these other topics, I can go up to the icons, but I can also just drag this down, and then if I want to make it a 2, I just click on it. If I want to make it a 3, I click on it. Global task handling might be the second priority, and ability to offer third-party add-ons might be tied for second place. So now you can see I have a very clear list of the goals and objectives, and they're ranked by priority. So that's a really good way to do task prioritization, goals and objectives prioritization. Make sure that you have everyone's requirements captured and agreed to. Now, one thing that I'm seeing in this project charter that I wish were in here, and it's not, is what about budget? If I'm getting all these executives to talk to me about their goals and objectives, let's make sure that budget is in the picture as well. And so what I'm going to do, I could create a budget on my own, but there's actually an easier way of doing it. I can go to the Insert menu here at the top. So I was in the Home menu. Now I'm going to the Insert menu. And I'm going all the way over to the right and using something that's called Map Parts. So I'm going to click on Map Parts, and what happens is my side panel opens up, and map parts are kind of a complement to the template. The template is a whole pre-built map with some tips and tricks and a bunch of suggested subtopics filled out. Map parts are actually topics. So they're single topics that have been built out to help you add information to your map. So there are analysis topics. So for example, if I needed to put in a fishbone analysis or a cost-benefit analysis, I could drag that over. In this case, because this is a project, I'm going into my projects map part, and I'm going to pick budget. And all I do is drag budget over here, and you can see, let me make this a little smaller, that I now have this pre-populated budget topic that's pulled into my map, and it's ready to go. Now, I actually got a budget topic ready earlier, so let me use the one that I prepared earlier. What you can see is that I've edited the categories in this blank thing, and you can go in and edit, let's say if travel is going to be, if what I really need for this project is, hotel, it's easy enough to edit. So down here, I've kind of trimmed it down to salaries, travel, consulting, technology, and other. And when I'm gathering requirements from people and I can show them, well, here's the planned cost, here's the cost so far, and if they say, whoa, this is way too high, I can say, well, okay, so let's see, we can maybe change 35 here to 25. Okay, and it'll instantly reflect the effect of that decrease in the overall budget. So this is one of the great capabilities for projects that MindManager gives, which is the ability to calculate numerical functions. In this case, obviously, it's calculating costs in dollars. A little bit later, I'll show you the ability to calculate duration. In both cases, this ability to have subtopics, salaries, travel, consulting, and so on, roll up to the highest level budget topic is really a time saver, because you can see immediately the impact of changes. You can keep track of actual costs. When you're reviewing things with your manager or with executives, you can show exactly what's been spent to date, and answer questions. And that's another thing that's really great about using MindManager is you don't have to show everything at once. So, I could be having a conversation with them about the goals, but then if I say, well, I'm concerned that this goal of enabling third-party apps is going to add significantly to the budget, and they say, well, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Then I can drill in and say, okay, well, here's what it means. So this ability to have everything available in a single view that you can drill into without opening, leaving the map, opening up Excel, showing the budget. It doesn't mean that Excel isn't a lot more powerful for many uses than this kind of simple calculation. But what it does mean is that I can stay in the map and I have everything that I need at my fingertips to answer questions. Okay. So now that pretty much concludes the section on requirements gathering and validation. What you saw is I took notes on my interviews with each of the stakeholders. I then kind of consolidated that input into a final list, and then with their participation, I stack ranked the goals and objectives, and I also went through a high-level budget with them and made sure that we were all on the same page for budget. So now I'm going to go to my project overview, where I'm going to start working on what I want to review with the team of people that is going to be doing the work. But one of the things, as I was just talking about, is having everything in one place, is that I might want to insert my project charter map. So, we just went through this whole project charter. Assume that we filled out all this information. Now, by inserting the project charter into my project overview, I have everything that I've already worked on available to me in this view. So project charter is still a separate map, but I've copied all the information in one operation into this map so that I have everything in a single map. I don't even have to be going back and forth. So now let's talk about how we plan a project. One thing I like to do is keep all the project information in one place. And so things like vendor data sheets, I might write a note, which is right here, and I might link to external research, and when I click on it, it will show up in my embedded browser. So I have, again, everything in one place, and so when I click on it, I can review it. And to do that, to add notes, attachments, and links, I go up here either to my Insert menu. It's also available in the Home menu. I just click here to add a note. I click here to attach a file. And I click here to add a link. And when I click link, I just type in the URL. It adds the link. And then if I'm trying to remember, oh yeah, what did Forrester, what was the projected size of the market for e-commerce transactions or whatever, I can just click on the link and we'll open up right here in my embedded browser. Okay, so that's a really handy way of working because it lets you consolidate everything into your map that you might need, whether it's a link, an attachment, a note, or whatever. You can even, I'm not going to do it right now, but you can even add a link. Let's say if your data is housed in Salesforce.com, you can link to Salesforce and you can drag and drop information from the embedded browser into your map. And that's a really handy way to add information. Okay, so now let's go to task planning. I'm going to show you very basically how to create a task. And a task is essentially a subtopic that you then add information to. So in this case, let me just click New Subtopic here in the upper left. And I might click Research PayPal Options, because this is an e-commerce system. Make this a little bigger. Oops, there. Now what I'm going to do is I'll highlight this subtopic of Research PayPal Options. I'm going to go to my Task menu, which is here at the top next to the Insert menu. And I'm going to say Show Task Pane. And in this same panel where earlier we saw the map parts and where we saw the embedded browser that we could access web-based information, is the task info. So for this, I'm going to say the priority is a priority 2. I'm going to say the progress is 10% because I have looked into it a little bit. But in this case, I'm going to actually ask Ryan to do some more research. So I'm going to say I'd like Ryan to start working on this next week because I know his week is really busy. But it really needs to be done by the end of the month. And so now you see my dates are showing up in the map. And that MindManager has calculated the duration in terms of work days. So I can define duration in terms of weeks or months if this is a really long project. I really hate to think about who manages but minutes and hours, not me. But in this case, I'm going to stick with work days because it's not that long. And then resources, I'm going to enter Ryan. And that's all I have to do. Okay, so now that is defined that Research PayPal Options is a priority 2, so it's not going to start until next week. It's not urgent for this week. I've done a little bit of research I can turn over to Ryan, and if I want to put my notes in the map, I can just put a note on here and say, Ryan, this is what I found out so far, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so let me go to something that I've built out a little bit more. So that's the basic thing. You create your subtopic, you go to the task menu, you open the task pane, and then you define your task information. So let's look at something that's more built out, and let's talk about this a little bit. Now, one of the things that I might say is here, I'm noticing that, this project is really supposed to go into full gear on the 18th, but actually we've gotten behind because of the holiday. So I can move this entire project out by picking a new start date. So let's say, you know what, I'm going to start it next week because that's more realistic. By choosing the highest level topic and moving the project, it adjusts all the dates that are associated. So now let's go through what that means. Okay, so I've got research vendors here, and you can see I've got this all filled out. So Jane is going to research alpha systems, Richard's going to research beta software, delta systems needs to be assigned, so I need to go over and assign a resource. Now, you'll see here I've got this line here, and let me tell you what this means. This is a dependency. So let me say here that I am going to add another task here that is finish. The way to assign a dependency is to go here to the Insert menu, click on Relationship, and then click on the two things that you want to have a relationship. Okay? So now I'm seeing that finish is somehow related to this Z topic. And when I click on the relationship line, I can go down here in the task management and I can define a dependency. So I can say, okay, finish is dependent on the topic before it. So when I click finish to start, it's going to, MindManager is going to automatically insert the, this topic is finishing on May 5th. It's going to pick May 6th as the start date for this topic. Okay, so you go up here, you identify the relationship by clicking on the two topics or subtopics, and then you go into task management and you define the nature of the dependency. So that's a really good way. If the steps in a certain aspect of your project are, consecutive, then you start with the first one, you establish the dependency, you go finish to start, and then you fill in, okay, well, it's going to take more than a day. It's going to take, about a week and a half. And then you finish out what you want to say, and then you add the resource. One of the things that's happening here is that everything is rolling up. So when we looked at the budget, we talked about how the numerical calculations are rolling up. You can see that for each of these, I have roll-up task information. So the whole initiation stage, the duration of that is a roll-up of everything that's in the subtopics. So you do that by highlighting the highest level topic that you want to roll up to and just clicking roll-up task information. So those are pretty much the basics of figuring out your project plan, your kind of tasks and assignments. And you can see that I can then go through and have a meeting with my team and be like, Jane, Richard, Ryan, are you okay with these? Can you commit to these? Do you have any concerns? Are there some dependencies that I didn't think of? And you can really get everything laid out very clearly. If you want to see things in a linear view, what you do is in your task menu, you can go to Gantt. Click on that, show Gantt chart, and down here you'll see everything as a timeline. You can also turn on Gantt by going down here in this lower menu. There's like a shortcut. Anything that I change in the Gantt view will be changed in the map. So here if I'm saying, you know what, this really needs 25 work days, that's going to be changed automatically in the map. So Gantt view can be very handy to see what some dependencies are, what the timelines are looking like. So you can see here a dependency is marked in the timeline with this little connector. And you can establish milestones over here in the task pane. You can make some of the task milestones. So you really get a clear view. And then when you're done with the Gantt view, you can just go back to, you can just unclick Gantt view and it'll go away. Okay, so that's a pretty good view of how to define your tasks, the duration for each task, identify dependencies, and then roll up each stage of the project. The final thing I want to do, we're just about out of time, but I want to leave time for questions, is here's a map that has just a ton of tasks in it, okay? And let's say you get, this is a product launch readiness, and there's just topics and subtopics and so on. How do you manage this kind of advanced map? Well, there are a couple of things you can do. One thing that you can do is you can you can expand and collapse your map. So when you click collapse map, it collapses back to the summary view. When you want to see more detail, you can expand one level at a time. Okay, so you could say, just show me one level. And this is a large map, so it's going to take a while. Show 2 levels, okay? And it'll show you the levels. Or you can just go through, obviously, and open and close if you want. You can also then use filters. So you can filter on priority. I was talking about this earlier, and say, just show me priority ones. Just show me things that are completed. Just show me things that are assigned to Ryan. So that's very useful if you're having a meeting, if I'm having a meeting with Ryan, and Ryan is saying, you know, I am like getting really behind, I have way too much to do. I can say, okay, look, let's look and see everything that's assigned to you. The map will show me just what's assigned to Ryan, and then we can review and see if we can move some things around. Okay, at this point I want to stop. We've covered pretty much, but I think you get a sense for how to create tasks, how to build them out, and then when you get a really large map going, you want to go into this view menu and filter and expand and collapse. And you can also use something called the index, which will show up over here, but I'm not going to show the index right now. I encourage you to explore it just because we're running out of time. So let's see what questions we have.
Okay, great. Thank you, Felicity. We had a question come in before the webinar, actually, and it was related to task due dates. When you move out a task's date, you push it back, do we still know, does the topic maintain the original due date value and as well as the new due date, so you can see how tasks perform against the original plan versus the new plan?
No. So if you move out the, when you move project, move project, it's going to take the original duration that you have, and it's going to insert, and it's going to move it out in time and apply the same duration. So if you want to show, you know, that things are over time, one of the things you can do is, if you, let's say this is something that's behind. If this is behind, typically you can set up your map so that this would show red, and then what you might want to do is just have a second task that is, you know, new research PayPal options or something. But no, the whole point is for it to be able to maintain the duration that you've set up and move the project out. So that, but if you don't move the project out, what you'll see when tasks are overdue is you can set up your map so that they show up in colors. Let me see if this has some things that are out of date. No, I think I moved all these dates, but anyway, it'll show up and you can identify that it's overdue.
Okay. And going back to inserting maps from one map into another, I had a question come in. Are the copied maps linked, as in when you make updates on one map to another map, does it reflect when you go back to that original project charter?
If not, no. The short answer. It's not.
Let's see what else we have here. Are you able to link between different projects? I think we've established that.
Yes, you can.
Inserting maps essentially is taking care of that. Can you import data from Excel sheets and PowerPoint slides?
You can. You can't import from PowerPoint. You can export to PowerPoint. So there's a good capability for using the slides capability in MindManager, which will enable you to make slides based on your topics and then export to PowerPoint. You can't import to PowerPoint. You can insert spreadsheets and portions of spreadsheets. It gets a little hard to view an entire spreadsheet, but you can do that.
Okay. And last question I have here is, can you add dependencies between topics that have subtasks, or just dependencies between tasks?
Yeah, so that you can, I think, add, it will affect, it's better if you do it at the beginning because it's going to change the date. But yeah, so if I said, I'm going to do a dependency here. So right now, catalog existing systems is supposed to start on February 23rd, and I'm going to go finish to start. And it should change this, and it did. So it changed catalog existing systems to start when research vendors is due to be complete. So so that's how you would do it. So if you have changes out here that change the research vendors, then that's going to have an impact on catalog existing systems.
Okay. And let's call this the last question as we've run over a few minutes. Is it possible to add videos or photos? I believe it is.
It is possible to add photos. I think videos are kind of too big, but you can go here and add an image. So
perhaps you post your video locally and link to it.
Exactly.
Maybe.
Exactly right.
Okay. All right. Well, that will do it for us, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today.